My name is Paul McKibben, and I'm going to talk about managing your media in Drupal. Media meaning images, video, audio, whether it's local to your site or embedded from someplace like YouTube or Flickr. I'm going to show you some modules today that will allow you to take advantage of that. Like I said, my name is Paul McKibben. I'm with Media Current. You've already heard a lot about us, so I'm not going to say a whole lot else. I am known as Paul McKibben just about everywhere. I'm not one of those people who has a different name for Twitter than my real name. But those are some ways that you can get in touch with me. Today, what I want to help you all do is understand the fundamentals of the file entity and the media modules, which are the kind of two core media, well, core is the wrong word, it has the wrong implication. The two modules that are kind of the underpinnings of media in Drupal. Today I'll also help you learn how to organize and to reuse your media assets by building a media library, and how to use those assets from your media library in your content. To just get an idea of everybody's background and motivations today. How many of you are actively working with images, audio, or video on your websites, for your job or clients or whatever? So about 2/3 of the room. That's great. Have any of you used media or file entity on Drupal before? A few of you, okay. So feel free to stop me and ask questions as we go. This is kind of a loose presentation, very demo-driven. I've got some scripts, not scripts, but some plans that I'm going to go do for the demos, but if we need to deviate from those to answer some specific questions, I can try my best and do that. So today we're going to kind of go over the media ecosystem in Drupal, the file entity, media modules, and related modules that use those. I'll show you how to build a media library in your Drupal site, where you can categorize and organize your media files and assets that you embed, and to be able to tailor the media browser view, which I'll explain in a little bit what I mean by that, in order to find and reuse those assets. And then show you how you can use media assets in your content, both through fields and by embedding via WYSIWYG. So as I mentioned, there are two main modules that are the underpinning of media in Drupal 7. They are file entity and media. There's two versions out there of those modules, what people call the 1.x version and the 2.x version. 1.x is out there, it's stable, but they're not adding a lot to it. Where the real stuff is happening, and what I'm going to be demonstrating today, is the 2.x branch. Now if you go to Drupal.org, you will see they call the 2.x branch unstable, but don't panic. It's really not that bad. I think the module maintainers just want to make sure you understand that it's still in development and that new functionality is added, things are changing, but a lot of big Drupal companies, including Media Current, Palantir, who some of the maintainers come from, and other Drupal companies, are using Media 2.x in client sites and are standing behind them to make sure that as the 2.x branch evolves, that sites can be upgraded without breaking. So 2.x, in my mind, is safe to use. I've been using it for more than a year on client sites. Here is a diagram that one of the key maintainers of the media module, Dave Reed, came up with, that he presented in DrupalCon Denver. And I find it kind of a useful way to see all the different pieces of Drupal, both in core and contrib, that are involved with media. Today we're primarily going to be talking about the file entity module and the media module, but there's a lot that file entity takes advantage of from core and from CTools, and then there's a lot that the media takes advantage of views, and then there are a lot of modules that integrate with media. I'll talk a little bit about views today, and a couple of extra modules that work with media, particularly the media YouTube and media Vimeo modules to integrate with YouTube and Vimeo. So I keep talking about file entity. Who here is familiar with entities, right? Maybe I should say, who here is not familiar with entities in Drupal? Okay, got a few. So I'll kind of give a very brief explanation. Entities are really kind of the basic building block of Drupal content, starting with Drupal 7. right now, prior to Drupal 7, everything, or not everything, but the node was kind of the basic building block, and you would build everything on nodes. However, people started to realize that, well, we have other things like comments on nodes and users and taxonomy terms and other things that we're also using as building blocks, but we can't put fields on them. We can't do the same kind of cool things that we can do with nodes. So part of what happened in Drupal 7 is they came up with this concept of an entity that node is based on now. Node is a type of entity, but now we have this file entity and many other entities as well. Nodes, users, taxonomy terms, comments, all these things can have fields. They have a common programming interface that makes it very easy for module developers to treat all entities in the same way, react when an entity is created, updated, and deleted. So file entity takes the Drupal core file and adds the ability to put fields on it and to integrate with views. So like I said, in Drupal 6, everything was a node, but now in Drupal 7, that's no longer the case. Everything is an entity. It doesn't have to be a node. So I'm going to start the first demo in just a moment. What we're going to do, like I said, is build a media library. The idea is we're building a site we can kind of consider it a hypothetical Drupal blog. And we want a media library to start bringing in audio, videos, images that have to do with Drupal, to categorize those, to classify them, and to make it so that we can find them and reuse them and reference them in our blog posts. We'll do that by tagging those files with taxonomy terms. How many of you knew that you could actually tag files with taxonomy terms? So a few of you that have used file entity have probably found that, but with file entity you can do that. So what we're going to do is, with file entity, we'll define term reference fields, which allows you to tag file entity with taxonomy terms. We'll define those on our files, and then update the media browser view to be able to filter on those terms. All right, so let's go to our first demo here, and let's hope it works. So what we're going to do, I've already defined some taxonomy vocabularies here. Let's list them. Tags were part of Drupal, this Drupal installation by default, and I hadn't deleted them. But I defined two new taxonomy vocabularies, one called event, oops, come on, get over there, event, and the other called topic. Got a question back here.
Would it be possible for you to increase the font size?
You know, I think I can do that. I know there's a zoom function on here somewhere. Yes. Is that a little better?
Can you go bigger?
I think so. How's that?
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for bringing that up. So we've got two vocabularies here, event and topic. What my plan is as we bring in videos and audio and images, we can tag them with an event such as Florida Drupal Camp, or a topic like views or panels or file entity. So we define those. Now we want to be able to tag our files with those. The way we do that, with the file entity module enabled, if you go into structure and then file types, you'll get this screen that shows you the four file entity file types that are currently defined. And by the way, one of the work items that is in the 2.x branch that I think will be in the next release of that branch is the ability to add your own file types. Right now, you have these four core file types. Today, we're just going to deal with image, video, and audio. So the way we tag our file types is very similar. Have any of you defined content types in Drupal? It's very similar to that process. This probably looks very familiar to you. You click Manage Fields, just like you would for a content type. So for the image, we're going to add our taxonomy vocabularies here by creating a term reference field. So you might remember the two vocabularies were event. When you want to tag something with taxonomy vocabulary, you use what's called a term reference field. And we'll use just the autocomplete tagging so that we can define new events on the fly. Hopefully this this won't take too long to save. Yeah, there we go. We're using the event vocabulary. I'm not going to throw any help text in there just because, just for the sake of time. We'll just make it that there's just one value here, one event per asset. Generally, I don't think you're going to have a video that applies to more than one event. And there we go. We now have an event field on our image. Let's do the same with topic. Again, that's a term reference field. And we need to make sure we use the topic vocabulary. And it is feasible that you'd have multiple topics on an asset. So, you might have a video that talks about see tools, panels, and views. So you want to be able to put multiple values on there. So let's make this unlimited. Okay. I also think it would be useful if you're going to have a large collection of assets, especially over time. You probably want to know when those assets were created. So I'm going to add one more field. I'll call it year. And I'm going to use a date field for that. We'll just have a text field. And since we're only interested in the year, let's uncheck all these others. And we just want one date. It's not a start and an end date, so we don't need to collect an end date. All right. So we've just added 3 new fields to the image file type. Let's go ahead and get the other file types done real quick. Now that we've done it once, it becomes very easy to hit the other 2 because the fields now exist and you can reuse them. So we want the event field. Keep the same settings for all of our file types. We will want the topic field. And the year field. Bear with me because we need to do this for audio as well. Actually, I think we can. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. It won't take long. By repetition, you can get this process down, right? Oops, there we go. So we now have event, topic, and year fields on the image, video, and audio file types, which means that it's now possible for us to start uploading and classifying, uploading or referencing and classifying videos, audios, and images with these terms.
why do I have to do it 3 times?
Because Drupal is built that way. Unless you happen to know of some way to repeat the process on the others. Yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, it's helpful that if you decide later that you need to have a length field on the
Right.
audio file, you don't need a length field on an image file. So
That's true, and that's I guess that's the real point, is that each of these are different, and you may need to treat them differently. And that will actually happen in the display settings that we'll go to in a minute. Video you may not want to have, or image, for example, you wouldn't have a length field on that, but you might have some sort of dimension field, or camera was used to shoot this, or whatever other types of information you might want to collect on an image that wouldn't apply to a video. Oops, come on. All right. So we defined the data around this stuff, but what about the presentation of it? You may have seen this if you've done content types as well, but we have the manage display screen for each of these guys, as well as something unique to files is manage file display. So first let's look at manage display. This is, if you've done this with content types, this will be very familiar to you. It basically allows you to decide, when I'm displaying this, what fields do I want to show, what fields do I want to hide. So for when we're showing an image, for example, we want to organize it by the event, topic, and year so we can find it as administrators and as editors, but we don't really necessarily want to present those to the user. So I'm going to define the display on these to only show the file and not all the extra data that we just defined. And you do that in the manage display section. Save, yeah, it's saved, okay. There's also manage file display. And the difference between manage display and manage file display is file display allows you to specify how the file is actually rendered. The media module gives you several options, and these options will be different depending on whether it's image, audio, or video. Some of them will be the same. Generally, I think generic file will give you a link to the file with a little icon. Large file type icon gives you a large icon. But what we really want to show is the image itself. So let me click image. When you click one, in some cases there are additional settings that you need to specify. For us, let's go ahead and specify that we use an image style instead of the original image so that it gets sized down to fit. And we'll go ahead and use the Drupal default medium style. Is everybody familiar with image styles? Or anybody need an explanation of image styles? I'm not seeing anything. Okay. So we've done that with image. Let's look and see what happens with video. So if we go to manage file display on video, we got a few extra options, and they're automatically checked for us here. I've included 2 extra modules, the Media Vimeo module and the Media YouTube module. And those 2 modules provide these extra options when you're showing a video type. It allows you to show the Vimeo image, the Vimeo video, the YouTube image, or the YouTube video, depending on what you've selected and what the browser is capable of showing. They've automatically set up the right defaults for us. Show the video if possible first, and if not possible, then show the image. And I'm just going to leave all the default settings here. Let's see what we get with audio. Actually, I forgot to hide the fields of video, but I'm going to skip that for now. With audio, it gives us most of the standard options, but you'll notice this does not come if you use the media or file entity module. You don't see this by default. This comes from the HTML5 media module. The plan with audio files, we're not referencing a site or anything. We're planning to upload the audio files ourselves, but we want a way for the user to be able to play them on the page. And so the HTML5 media module allows you to embed a media player that is HTML5, probably the HTML5 native player for the browser you're using. So that's what we'll use for audio. And I'm just going to leave the default settings on here because, as I found later, when you try to use this in your content, you have to set them all up again anyway. So I'm not going to even bother. So, in any case,
And Paul,
yes.
at this point, one of the things you get for free from File Entity is that every file you upload gets its own unique path, right? So
That's
when
right.
you upload an image, it's at media/1, just like you would get node/1.
Right.
So as soon
It'll
as you
be-
upload something, it's addressable. You can
Exactly.
go to it right away. You don't have to attach it to a node in order to use it.
Right. It actually has, I think it's actually file/number by
And so
default.
that's what all those settings are good for.
Yep.
Even if you don't ever use the files, they can show up on your site.
And again, the idea is we're building a media library. So when you upload files or reference videos from YouTube or whatever, that gets added to your library and given a Drupal path, and then you can reuse that in all your blog posts or whatever other content you write. When you're embedding that media in your post, you just reuse that existing media from your library. So anyway, these are the file display formats that we were just looking at. It's kind of a summary. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but when I finally upload the PDF of this package up to the Florida Drupal Camp site, you'll have this as a reference. I already explained this as well, but just to recap, there was field display and file display. When you're editing your displays, the file display specifies what the file looks like. The field display allows you to show or hide fields and their labels. There were a couple different view modes in there. Let's show that real quick. There's default, teaser, and preview. If you need additional view modes, you can use either the entity view mode module, or I believe you can use display suite. I haven't tried that.
Yes, you can.
Okay, to add additional view modes to files. All right. Any questions before we go on? Yes.
How to add a new image style? Like, resize the image?
If you want to add a new image style, that I believe is under configuration, media, image styles. And these are the default Drupal styles. If you want to add more, you just click Add Style.
Configuration, media.
Configuration, media, image styles. And by the way, for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm using what's called the admin menu module to provide this nice little drop-down admin menu interface. Drupal doesn't have this drop-down by default, but I find it tremendously convenient. So this uses the admin menu and admin toolbar modules to provide that. Okay. Any further questions before we move on to the next thing? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, now that we've defined all this extra data on our files, the topic, the event, the year, when you add media to content, it gives you a media browser that allows you to find the image or the video or audio that you want to embed in your content. But it doesn't know about these new fields that we just added. And sure, it would be nice to be able to filter on them, to say, I only want to see videos from 2009, or I only want to see audio from Drupal Camp Atlanta, or from the Drupal Easy podcast, or plug for Ryan over there. So what we're going to do is update the view for the media browser to allow filtering on those fields. Who needs views explained? Who here has seen views before or not seen views before and needs kind of an understanding of what it is?
Go for it.
All right. So the views module allows you to build queries. If you were at the keynote, Brian Sarama actually kind of explained that. And views works with file entities as well. The media module provides a view called the media browser, which you can customize to filter and sort as you need it for your particular media library and your particular media needs. So since we have defined new fields, we need to add those to our media browser. Right now, when you bring up a media browser, it just shows you the ability to filter by the file name, whether it's audio, document, image, or video, and that's it. That's all you can filter it on. We want to be able to filter it based on our new topic and event and year. So the way we do that is we add fields to the filter criteria. So what we want the event field, we want the topic field, and we want the year field that we defined on our file types. So I always choose that. It gives you a choice between drop-down and autocomplete. One of the gotchas I have found is that if you use autocomplete, this is where you start typing and it automatically completes it for you. The media browser JavaScript gets confused and bad things happen. So you have two choices. If you must have autocomplete, you can use it, but then there's an advanced setting that requires you to have an apply button so that you can fully autocomplete without the media browser trying to complete the query for you. Or what I prefer to do is just make it a drop-down. Oops. So that was event, there's topic, make that a drop down. And you know what I forgot to do on event, I'll have to go back and fix, is expose this filter to visitors. That's what allows you to have that entry in the media browser for the user to actually change what they're filtering on. And one of the annoying things that Views does is it puts the machine name of the field in the field label. And I always erase it. And for year, we just want to filter on year. Oops. And let's just do from 10 years ago to now. And we want to expose that. Okay, and I need to fix the one that I forgot to expose, which was that one. All right, so in the end, what it's going to look like is that we will now have not just the file name and the file type, we now have event, topic, and year that we can use to filter our media library on. Let me save this. All right, so we're going to take kind of a cooking show approach and look at the fully baked version here. With,
Blood on the oven.
yes. So to show you what the media browser view looks like, we've already got some fields in here. But when you're actually adding media to your content and you click library, it gives you this set of filters, and the thumbnails that you see are filtered based on the items you select. So for example, if I want to select Florida Drupal Camp as my event, oops, I don't have any Florida Drupal Camp files in here. Let's try Drupal Camp Atlanta. There we go. So it'll only show you those that come from Drupal Camp Atlanta. If we want to go even further down and say Drupal Camp Atlanta 2009, it narrows it down even further. So as you build up a huge media library of images, videos, audio, you'll find that this is very helpful to help you narrow down what you're looking for. Any questions?
What if you've already got a huge media library? You have to go in and tag all those things?
That's where you hire somebody to help you script that.
We have
or learn how to script it.
volunteers come in and coding for a customer.
Yeah, that's right.
For one of our projects.
And actually, that's a good point, especially if you're a nonprofit and want to get some volunteer help. Something like Coding for a Cause is a good way to get that. Yes, when you're migrating a ton of data into Drupal, usually you need somebody to help you with that, to script it, to get the tags right and everything like that. There's no simple solution in most cases to do that, unless you're
No,
coming
we're already in Drupal, and we've just been putting, we have, our media library is just unmanageable because the users always upload a new, we have some images, we have 100 copies of in there.
Oh my goodness.
Because
yeah.
and you can't delete them. There's that thing about you can't delete an image.
Oh, you can't delete an image that's being used somewhere?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
I was hoping they would fix that soon, but.
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of catch-22, because if you delete an image that's actually being used by something, then that affects that something.
I would be fine with that. Then fix the broken
Yeah.
links.
I mean, what we have
like
done.
A file merge or something like that reduces duplicates, though?
I don't know if there is. It sounds like there should be. I have not run across that. Something good for me to research and see. But what we have done with some of my clients that have had the problem of migrating a lot of assets from Vignette to Drupal is I'll usually script something. We'll import the images and then write a script that'll be fed from a spreadsheet that will read the tag names from the spreadsheet and assign them to the images. It requires some development skills to do that, but it can be done.
There's definitely something called file replace that lets you take care of one of the really big problems with media, is that, like you're saying, once you upload a picture, you can't remove it because it's in all these places. If you need to update that picture, the pixels of this have changed for some reason.
Right.
This extra module will let you swap out the picture, but the entity remains intact.
Actually, I think that's part of your file entity or media. If I select an image, for example, I believe this Edit Media button lets you. Does it let you replace the file? Yeah, it lets you replace the file.
Yeah, this must be the 2x.
Yeah, this is 2x. Yeah. Question over here.
You mentioned that some images can be used in different places. How to track those places? How I can see in the
How do you see where your media is being used? I don't know of an interface that gives you that right now. Ryan, yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, you can build a view that does it. You could build a view that looks at the media fields on your content and lets you filter based on like a title of an image or a title of a video, for example.
You'd have to know how to use views relationships, probably.
But yes, you could build a view to do that. There was another question over here.
Yeah, can you make your taxonomies hierarchical? And if you do that, how do you filter down the hierarchy?
Yes, you can make them hierarchical, and you can show hierarchy in the drop-down. So it'll put, I think, a little extra dash or something in front of the sub-items, and 2 dashes with the sub-sub-item. It'll show the hierarchy in the drop-down. You would just still select one element in that hierarchy.
Is there any support for composite assets? For instance, I work for a digital library, and we have a collection of postcards where you see the front and the back, so those are related. Or a lot of books are coming in as a collection of tips, and they're all related and sequenced as pages.
Yeah, what I would probably do there is either use entity construction kit or a content type to create an entity or node that takes the individual images and data from your composite content or composite media and puts them together. So you have like a postcard with a front and back image. You'd have a node with 2 image fields on it, one for front image, one for the back image.
What were those called again? Content?
Content types are native to Drupal.
No. Oh, okay.
Entity construction kit.
And then entity construction kit is another option where for some reason you don't want to make those postcards a node. If you decide you don't want the overhead that comes with a node, like having a page view, for example, you could create an entity.
Couldn't you do a relation and some trickeration to make so that when you're uploading one image, that it asks you, okay, what is the other side of the postcard? Enter that, and then marries the two.
Right, and I think depending on your application, that if that's something that you need to model, that this is related to this because it's the back side, and this is related to this postcard. The relation module lets you model those relationships, but what I have found so far is that it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that module.
The other mind-blowing moment is you could add a file field to a file entity.
This is true. You could.
You were crazy.
If you were crazy. Yeah. Or use an entity reference in a file entity to reference the other file. Okay.
Crazy why? What?
Because it's very meta and fun, but you could do it. And actually, I mean, we could talk later. I'm okay with crazy.
All right. We have about 10 minutes left, and so let's jump ahead here. This just kind of explains what we've already done. So now we'll look at adding media to your content types, to your articles. And I'll try and breeze through this as fast as I can. I think what I'll do is I'll take a completed site and show what has already been done rather than kind of go through the process as I did with the others, because that's taken up a lot of time. There's really two fields you can use that come with Drupal. There's something called a file field and something called an image field. And depending on the type of media you're integrating, you can use the file field with any of them. If you're doing something specific with images, the image field will give you a little bit more that's specific to images. With either one of those, you want to make sure you use the media selector widget, the media file selector widget. So let me show you what I mean. If we go to our content types here, so what we had done is we modified the article content type and added 3 fields to it, an image field, a video field, and an audio field. When I was first putting this demo together, I just had one field, and I called it media. I thought, okay, let's just make it really generic and we can put any media in it. But what I discovered is, yeah, that works great for modeling the relationship between the article and the media, but when it comes time to present the media, things get hairy. When you present an image, you want it to show it a certain dimension. When you present a video, you want it to show, either the YouTube or the Vimeo screen. And when you present audio, you want to present a player so the user can play it. And being able to manage those rules in a single field became impossible. So I decided it was best to separate them into 3 different fields. But anyway, when you add a field, you can see when you add a new field, it tells you to select a field type and select a widget. So with each of these, with the image field, I used an image field, and the video and audio, I did a file field. But for all 3, the widget was media file selector. That's not what's given to you by default, so you have to make sure you actually change it when you add those fields. Any questions about that?
And you can retroactively go back. If you install this module later,
Right.
you can go back and change all of your file fields to media selector.
Right, you can change the widget. You can't change much else about the field, but you can change the widget. Also the display mode, that's the other thing I wanted to check on there. So you might remember when we did the file types, there were display modes on that. When you add the fields to your content type, you also need to set some display settings for each of those fields. What we have done with the image, we have set that up to use the image format. It gives you a choice between rendered file and image. I'm not sure what happens if you select rendered file, because I've always just selected image, because it gives you the option then to select an image style.
Well, those would be the settings that you set in the previous form.
That's right. That makes
Wow.
sense. That makes sense. With the video format, I chose rendered file. It gives you a bunch of other options. But what I want is for the YouTube or Vimeo screen to show up. So I chose rendered file for that. And then you can choose the view mode. That again you define in your file entity display settings. You can choose whether you want the default teaser or full content or preview view modes, or if you add more view modes using display suite, those would show up there though as well. I'm just using the default. And then for audio, this stuff comes from, again, the HTML5 media module. I chose the media player format because I don't want to link to the audio. I actually want the user to be able to play the audio on the page. So I selected media player, and then it gives you options to set the width and height of the media player. And since it's an audio player, not a video, I don't need it to be huge. So I just kind of arbitrarily chose 400 by 80. It's probably even bigger than it needs to be. Any question about those?
So I think, Paul, there, if you did use that rendered file, you were saying it's going to make you pick all these things again. I think if you chose the rendered file, it would use the ones you set originally.
That may be true. I didn't get as far. I only discovered the HTML5 media player yesterday, so.
The weirdest thing about all this media stuff is you can do everything in like 7 different places.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
The Drupal way.
Yes. But anyway, I guess if you choose rendered file, that will use the defaults. That makes sense. And then using media player here, you can set specific defaults for your content type. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just a quick question. If I were to use the file library, but instead of attaching files to the node, just as a replacement for CK Finder.
That replacement for what?
For CK Finder.
CK Finder?
So
yeah, you can use it. You can use it with the WYSIWYG module also.
Right.
Okay, so what's going to happen in Drupal 8, where the default editor is going to be CK editor?
Yeah, you can embed media in WYSIWYG using the media and file entity modules. I'm going to try and squeeze that in here in the next few minutes before my time expires.
I don't know yet what the plan is with integration between CK editor and Drupal files, but Drupal files is part of core, so there's got to be something there, or there will be a contrib module that will be released before Drupal 8 comes out, I'm sure, that will handle this in about 7 different ways.
Right.
Using this way, I'm forced to add a file to every node I would use.
No, you're not actually.
Yeah,
you can actually,
right now,
yes. I'm using TinyMCE, but this actually works with CK Editor as well. You can actually add images and video and audio to your WYSIWYG. The media module gives you a WYSIWYG tool for your toolbar to bring up the media browser, and then it embeds some code into your body, which gets translated into a media file entity. So let me show you what it looks like here. What we first had to do was go to content authoring text formats, and I did this with the full HTML format. You have to enable a filter that media provides you. It's called convert media tags to markup. If you do not enable this filter, it will not be possible to add the media tool to your WYSIWYG. So that's the first thing you've got to do. And then once you have done that, you can set up your WYSIWYG configuration. You edit your WYSIWYG configuration. Among the buttons and plugins that are offered, the media module gives you the media browser plugin.
Jeez.
Is there a question? Or?
You just got a lot of buttons.
Yes. Yeah, most of them are not checked.
A lot to sort through.
Yes. Yeah, the WYSIWYG editors give you a lot of buttons that I prefer not to use. One thing you must make sure you do, and it really depends on the editor, but there are some versions of TinyMCE where this verify HTML, it doesn't like the media encoding that the media module puts in there, and it blows it away. So if this is turned on, your WYSIWYG media embedding won't work. So I have turned it off. I'm told that later versions of TinyMCE have fixed this. I don't know what the implication is on CK Editor, but watch out, and you may want to try with it on and with it off and see what happens. But if you find that you think you've set up everything right in your WYSIWYG editor and it's not working, check to see if the WYSIWYG editor settings might be trying to mess with the markup that the media module put in there. So to show an example, let's just add an article real quick. Get my trackpad to cooperate. Here's the little media browser tool. Click that, it brings up your media browser. You can upload or reference new media or choose something existing. Let's just see what happens if we try to embed this YouTube video. So it shows up in the preview image there. When we actually save it, maybe the title else it won't save. And there it is. From your WYSIWYG editor, you've just embedded a YouTube video that plays. So,
okay, hey everyone. It's about 10:40.
All right. Anyway, my time is up. Are there any last questions? I've got something to give away too. So.
Could you summarize all the modules you used to put that together?
Yes. Let's do that real quick.
And can you include the file upload, the image upload, full upload?
Yeah, so here's a recap of modules. This will be up on my session page on the Florida Drupal Camp site.
How well is this integrated with search? Will normal search pick up this kind of media?
I have not tried to do that, so I don't have a good answer for you. I know it can be configured. I just don't know if there's another module you need to do that, or. And Ryan,
well, I don't know. Go to the search tab on your site.
I bet it does.
Yeah, I think it does. I
This
remember
guy's
having to
next.
turn it off.
So
Assuming that you have search turned on.
yeah. So let's just say search for DrupalCon. Let's see what shows up. Yeah. So either it didn't get indexed yet, or
And then caching and that kind of stuff.
the normal Drupal caches apply. So your Drupal page cache will cache your paged output. If you have a varnish cache outside, any other last minute questions? I have a book to give away, so don't run off yet. Actually, this side of the room hasn't gotten much love from me. So.
If you're putting a new media library together, would you try to host it directly on the Drupal site? Would you go with Vimeo, or would you go with YouTube?
I find it, I mean, it's a different answer for everyone because there's different requirements. If you've got, proprietary stuff that you need to have control over, you probably need to host it yourself and put it on a CDN. Generally, the more you can put off your server, the less load on your server.
Right.
So, also, if you are trying to be, trying to publicize yourself, there's a lot of benefit to having your videos on someplace like YouTube or Vimeo where people can get to them from outside your site and discover you that way. So
YouTube or Vimeo, does it make a difference to you?
No. So, yeah, everybody's got that preference. I've got a book to give away real quick, and then I need to let the next presenter get set up. So first person who can tell me the difference in file entity configuring the field display versus the file display. Raise your hand in the back.
The field display is for the fields and the display to the user, the file display is for example file display.
Right, the file display is what the file looks like. The field display is what fields are shown. You win Drupal's Building Blocks by Earl and Lynette Miles. Congratulations. Thank you, everybody. If anybody has questions, track me down. I'm here all day. I apologize that we couldn't squeeze everything in.